You're listening to the Agent and the Fan podcast with sports agent Chris Leible and fan Lou Columna.
Welcome, everybody, to the Agent and the Fan podcast. I'm Chris Leible. I'm the agent. I'm here with my man, Lou Columna. Lou's the fan. Lou, well, it's been a tumultuous time. The winter meetings are here, but right before the winter meetings, obviously, the big news broke, what we've been talking about for weeks, what's been talked about for quite a long time now, even before he got traded to the Yankees. Juan Soto is a Met.
Yeah, man, not gonna lie. This one, I don't want to say it hurt, but it stung. It definitely stung. Because I definitely wanted him back. Unlike other New York Yankee fans, I didn't want him back at all costs, but I wanted him back. I mean, he's a premier talent. He's amazing. He's a great hitter. And I've said this all along. I would have given him $900 million. I don't care about the money. I didn't want to go 15, 16 years. That to me is, the killer for me. So listen, hats off to the Mets. What I don't want to hear is, how Steve Cohen sweet talked him and the wife was nice and it was I was like, listen, Scott Boras came back to the Yankees after that the last offer, and was like, would you match? So what does Bill Parcells say all the time? When they say it's not about the money, it's about the money. And you yourself, my friends, have said they're going to go for the bottom dollar. That's it.
Yeah,
so,
I told you.
That's what it is. That's my frustration with any person. It's like with Cano when he left and he talked about how great it was in Seattle, how they treated him. And I remember Mike Hampton, why he chose the Rockies because of the school system. I hate that. I'm like, just say, listen, man, they offered me the most money and that's what I was looking for. And that's it. And I can respect that even more.
Look, Lou, that's the premise of the show. That's what we've talked about since the first episode. The fans don't see it that way. Now, I'm glad you're good with. You were good, of course. You were good with the money. It wasn't your money. What do you care of how much money?
It is my money. It is my money because that means the hot dogs are going to go to $10. The beer's going to go to $50. It all trickles down back to us.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but listen. At the end of the day, I've said this countless times on the show. Unless you're in a real unique situation or a real unique personality or person or whatever the different circumstances that go into this, which of course we've always talked about how many there are. At the end of the day, the money's the money. I have a friend who always tells me, oh my God, what's the difference if it's $765 million or $745 million? And I'm like, it's $20 million. That's a lot of money. But to him, it means nothing. It does mean something. And people who say that are just either dumb or just don't put themselves in their shoes, really, because that is a lot of money, no matter who you are and how much money you make at the end of the day. So I think, this one, I think it as with almost all of them, it comes down to dollars. Sometimes you split hairs on, something or another, and there might be something. The one thing you don't want to hear, you said what you don't want to hear. What I don't want to hear is he could have been an icon with the Yankees. He could be an icon anywhere.
No, he couldn't. No, he couldn't. He can
yes,
be an
he could. Yes, he could. He played 1 year for the Yankees. 1 year. He didn't come through the system. He didn't come through their system. He wasn't a Yankee guy from day one. They made a trade for him. They got him. They knew they were getting him for 1 year, and they knew they were rolling the dice. And they get what they get. But to say he could have been an icon with the Yankees.
Can he be an icon with the Mets?
Can he be an icon with the Mets?
He's not their guy.
What did you say?
He said, can he be an icon with the Mets?
I think he can be, but what I'm saying, I say he could be an icon anywhere. If he goes for the next 15 years, whether it's the Mets, the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Brewers, the Cardinals, the A's, he could be an icon anywhere
I take that back. I
produces.
I agree with that. For me is, yes, look, yes, he could be an icon. We can go down the list of, Paul Molitor and, Kirby Puckett. You could be an icon anyway. I agreed. I take that back. I agree. But there would have been. It's a little different when it's in New York. It's a little different. I'm talking about either team. I'm not talking about I'm not talking.
No, I agree, but
there's a cachet with you being a Dodger. There's a cachet with you being a.
Yes, I agree. And the Yankees are the Yankees, but the Mets also have a very nice history. It's not the Yankees. It'll never be the Yankees because the Yankees have been around a lot longer. They've been around from the beginning, and the history is unmatched. They came from a different era, and the icons of Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and Joe DiMaggio and Mickey Mantle and all those guys that have come through, and then through the 70s and the 90s and all the big Yankee teams. Of course, those are things that take literally that took a century to build. Okay. Correct. Mets haven't even been around a century. So that, these are, and it was a different time. Will that ever come back? Probably not. The Yankees are the most famous franchise in sports without question. But I don't like when people say, oh my God, and I've seen online posts. I've seen people go on cursing. I saw a guy yesterday showing the chop shops across the street from Citi Field. This is where you are. What is the Bronx? The paradise in heaven? I mean, you want to go around the Bronx and show pictures of rats running around? It's New York is New York. It's a big city. It has nice areas. It has not nice areas. You want to tell me that Yankee Stadium in the Bronx is a nice area? Sorry, with due respect. It's the same thing as Queens or whatever, or maybe even not even as nice as Queens. Maybe, I don't know. I'm from New Jersey. What do I know? But look, you're a New York guy. But my point is, this guy, Juan Soto, is a great baseball player. That's undeniable. How great he is definitely been debated and discussed. I've gone on this show and I've said I feel like he's a great player. I feel like he's a difference maker. How much of a difference maker? That's definitely a question. And I think, the Yankee fans are going, we didn't need him anyway now. It's the same thing as always.
We needed him.
And the Met fans are going, oh my God, we're going to print the playoff tickets and print the World Series tickets. I don't think either of those things are given. And again, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to be as unbiased as I can be about it. I think Juan Soto is a great player. Baseball is a team sport. You need to be clicking on all cylinders of the game to win. Okay, Juan Soto is not going to win a World Series by himself. Okay, Juan Soto is not going to, take the Mets to another stratosphere by himself. It's going to be a team effort wherever he is. Last year, him and Aaron Judge had great years, and that helped the Yankees take him to back to the World Series, which was a long time in coming. And when you get a guy like this, he's the dude right now. Okay, and people are looking at it that way. Now, again, what does that mean? I don't know, but I think I could say a lot of things about it as far as the Mets go, and I want to get into that. But I wanted to ask you, you said something. You said you wouldn't, that I know you wanted him back. I know you're a huge fan of the guy. You're a Dominican guy who loves the Yankees. This is your guy, and he came here. And I think I told you, boy, you gave up a lot for a 1-year rental at the time. I think I said it in this.
Yeah, you did.
But because I knew that he was going, Scott Boris's agent was going to go, and it seemed like he was all in on just trying to go to the best offer that was out there. And Steve Cohen was unrelenting in getting this done. I think Steve and his wife Alex, this is the guy they wanted. This is the guy they earmarked, and this is the guy they weren't going to be outbid for him. That was for sure. And then the question was, how far were they going to go? And see, it's even come out a couple of things I've seen that they would have gone even further, possibly.
Yeah.
If it came to it, but at some point the bidding ends. But as far as the Yankees go, where in your mind as a fan, what is your headspace now as far as this goes? You lost your guy. He was your guy.
I did.
So now, what does that mean to you as a fan, and what does it mean to the organization?
So for me as a fan, it's funny. I took my kids to a bunch of games last year, and they they're like, oh, the Soto T-shirt. I'm like, no, we're not getting that. it's like I want to make sure we'll wait till next year. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I'm disappointed. I'm not upset because, listen, he wasn't even the best player on the Yankees. I mean, that's just a reality, right? Judge is the best player on the Yankees. Somebody brought up a good point. Like, listen, he hit 41 bombs. He didn't hit 330, he hit 285. You know what I mean? He got 108 RBIs. So he's going to be missed. There is no question about it. And I would have taken him back. The difference for me, I would not have taken him back at all costs, which is what Steve Cohen did. But the difference is Steve Cohen needed to do that, right? He needed to do that. He could not walk away without Soto. And so he was going to give up. I mean, let's be honest. It's really going to be an $800 million contract, but when it's all said and done, because Soto's not opting out in 5 years. So it's going to escalate to $55 million a year. For me, and I've said this before about Robinson Cano, who was a big Yankee for me. When he went to Seattle, I was like, God bless. I don't want to see a 42-year-old Robinson Cano on the Yankees, And somebody always told me something. And listen, 15 years is a long time, so he'll be a Met in every sense of the word. But somebody said you never want to grow old on a team that's not your team. So, as an example, if Jeter were to go to the Red Sox if the Yankees hadn't given him a contract, and Jeter would have batted .210 with 3 homers and just been awful, they would have been like, "Hey, man, I thought we were getting Derek Jeter, the captain of the Yankees, right?" But those same numbers on the Yankees, we saw his best, and he's our guy. So we can not let it slide, but we understand that, we saw he gave us 5 championships. He did all this for us. So you're going to be a little bit more easygoing with him. You can just ask the Angel fans with Pujols how they treated him toward the end.
Okay, but this is a different situation. This is a guy who came up as a very young player. He's a young guy.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He's going to be a Met. That's what I'm saying. At the end of the 15 years, he's going to be a Met.
Yeah.
And so it's not going to be the same. So, listen, for me, it's just like I said, I would have given him anything he wanted. Sincerely, the money to me that means nothing.
Look,
I don't want to give the years. I don't want to give.
Steve Cohen didn't get to be one of the richest men in the world by being dumb. Okay, David Stern is extremely bright guy. Okay, and that the Mets front office, they know what they're doing. Okay. I don't think anybody there is expecting to see 15 spectacular 40 home run seasons out of Juan Soto, okay? I think what you're looking at is, and this is what I wanted to get into. When you bring this guy in at this point, okay, number one, it's a flagship player, right? You have Lindor, who really honestly could have been considered for the MVP last year and was a finalist. I mean, he really, for a guy, I think Buck Showalter was talking about it at some point during the season. Lindor can beat you with his glove and his bat, okay? The other top candidates couldn't do that, okay? Obviously, Ohtani, when he's pitching, is a different story. He didn't pitch this past year. This year was certainly an historic season. But what Lindor did was spectacular. But to go out and get not only a guy, get the guy, okay, which the Mets really, quite honestly, and you're the fan, I'm the agent, but I grew up a huge Mets fan, and I spent my whole youth waiting for the Mets to get the guy, and they never did. And they never did. Even when they got the top free agents, they weren't looked at as Juan Soto is looked at right now, okay? So when Dave Winfield back in the day at the beginning of free agency, the Mets finished runner-up to the Yankees for Dave Winfield back in the day, that they just couldn't never get the guy going to last year with Yamamoto, where it looked like, the Mets needed him, had to get him. And it looked like Yamamoto used the Mets to just jack up his price and then got the Dodgers to meet him and give him what he wanted. So I think this not only sets a tone with the rest of the teams. It sets a tone for all the players on the team. It sets a tone for all the players in the league. It sets a tone for all the future free agents. Like, these guys are in it. They're serious. They're going to win. This guy's going to do whatever it takes to win. Okay. And I think, listen, this isn't something, I don't think Steve Cohen's going to do this every year, but I think every once in a while, you got to flex your muscles and you got to go and get the guy. And the Mets had never done it. The Mets have had, cheap owners back in the early days. Mrs. Payson was great back in the early days, but then the cheap owners in the 70s and then the 80s, Fred Wilpon and Nelson Doubleday, they just never, they tried they had the, tough run in the early 90s or whatever. But with some of those teams, with some of those guys, and a lot of those guys are friends of mine, Bobby Bowe and Brett Saberhagen, guys like that.
But a lot of the Met players the big Met players were gotten through free agency, or not free agency, through trades. Like Piazza
trades, exactly. So yeah, exactly. So that's the thing. So look, I was involved in all these things that you're talking about, Mike. I was there, and I remember talking to Steve Phillips about, unless we can go get Mike Piazza, I don't know how we're gonna solve, losing Todd Hundley. And next thing you know, we got Mike Piazza. And then Johan, that was one thing, like Johan and I talked about that for years, about at some point, maybe, whatever. He wanted to always play with Jose. So that was something that, that fell into place nicely when it did. But that's exactly my point. So the Mets have had these guys. Now they went and got this guy. This sets a tone for all these, what we talked about. But maybe last but not least, and maybe the most important, it sets a tone for their fans and their fan base, that this isn't the same old Mets, and it's not the same. This is they're serious. They got this guy who is universally beloved. Yes, you'll hear different opinions on it. Yes, some Yankee fans are saying now, I didn't want him anyway, but you always get that. I see that all the time with college, college sports recruiting, when the guy comes in and he goes, you see that all the time. Okay. There's always sour grapes and always people who are like, I don't agree. I think this guy could be an icon wherever he is. The other thing, that those are all things on the outside. On the inside, though, I think this guy definitely, his approach at the plate will be helpful to the team. It'll make the lineup better. Okay. Obviously you're getting this, bell cow in the middle of the lineup, right? But you're also getting a guy who sees pitches, does things, all the things that teams are looking for nowadays, where they're, he's getting on base, he's getting his walks, he's doing all the things that the teams like now, the analytics, he's definitely a darling when it comes to metrics and analytics and all those things. So look, at the end of the day, I agree with you. I think, 15 years is a very long time. You never know how somebody's body is going to hold up. Sometimes guys you think are going to go on forever don't. Sometimes guys that you see and you're like, Luis Sojo, or look at these guys and you're like, Luis Guillorme is a good example. Like, you look at him, you're like, how's this guy? But he's always has a job, and he's, he's still a good player. Yeah. So like, not everybody, doesn't always work out. So at the end of the day, look, I feel like it's something the Mets had to do. I think they knew it. And I think, like I said, I don't know if they're done doing this. I don't expect any, $750,000 $1 billion contracts coming out anytime soon from the Mets. Yeah. But
I think, no, I agree. Right. I mean, listen, this is a generational player. So this player doesn't come out every year. So that's the first thing. I feel, like I said, the Mets needed to do this more than the Yankees needed to do this. As crazy as that may sound, again, I'm stung. I'm not like losing my head over it, because I said, you know what? Get me, and again, who knows who gets who and who gets what. In an ideal world, get me Christian Walker at first. Give me Bregman at third. Trade for Bellinger. That's kind of been the hot thing now. And to me, those are nice pieces to have. And, again, somebody brought this up yesterday. They said, none of this for the Yankees means the end. You know, A-Rod left to Texas, and the next year the Mariners won 116 games, right? And he gave a couple of more examples. And so there's going to be another generational player at some point, and he may or may not come to the Yankees, or he may stay with his team. Who knows? You know, so I don't get caught up in that. I never did. I'm in the here and now. You get me some good quality players. I don't want to just, you know, do what the Yankees did, you know, back when they, you know, when they lost Cano and then they went after Ellsbury and McCann. Although McCann was pretty decent. Like, take your time, be methodical, and sign some good players. And we're gonna be fine.
We talked about in the last episode, and we talked about when we had Tim Durkis up from MLB Trade Rumors. Look, the disparity between contracts from Juan Soto to the next number 2 guy on the list is going to be huge. The amount of guys you can get for the same price, if that's where you're willing to go, which again, most teams aren't willing to go there, but you know, you could get so much quality and build so much more depth if you do. So again, will the Mets continue to sign guys? That's something we want to talk about, you know, where the Yankees go from here. So, you know, I think you just touched on it a little bit.
I think that's where they need to go.
Are they going to go for the Christian Walkers, who's a super productive player?
For sure. I mean, first of all, you have no.
Or do you think they're going to go for like no, but I'm saying, like, is that your guy? Do you go for a Burns? We talked about Santander.
He's my guy.
Do you go for multiple of these guys?
Yeah, no. I would say, listen, if I had my druthers, Christian Walker, because we need a first baseman. Bregman, I would put him at third. The more I thought about it, I was in on Santander, but the more I thought about it, if I can get Corbin Burns, to match him up with Garrett Cole, and then you slot down Rodon as a number 3, that's a solid, 3 guys at the top of your rotation. So there's a lot of ways, and I know that a Yankee fans got annoyed with Cashman, but it's true. There's a lot of ways to build this team. So I'm okay with that. The Mets, they're not done, right? Because if we're being honest, they're still the 3rd best team in that division today, even with Juan Soto, right? They need to do a couple of more things. I still think the Braves are the cream of the top, because of their talent. They didn't have Acuna for the whole, for most of the year towards the end. So to me, their talent still is above the Mets, but obviously the Mets stepped it up. But you got to back it up with, you got to get Pete Alonso back. If I was the Mets, he's more valuable to them than any other team. Goes back to what I said about Jeter, right? If you sign Alonso to a 7-year contract, and at 37 he's not what he was your guy, and you re-signed him. I haven't heard of one Met fan saying I don't want Alonso back. So the Mets got a lot of work to do. I think
Pete's their guy, and
yeah, for sure.
They like Pete. I mean, I think they like Pete. I was told that they wouldn't have them both. Today I got some other information that actually they may still be able to get Pete back. We'll see how that goes. Another Scott Boras client. I think
that goes. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but this goes back to where I talk about, when you talk about Steve Cohen, but he has to listen to David Stern, right? Because David Stern says, "Listen, that's your guy."
He does, and he will.
But we can't give Pete X amount of money for X amount of years, because Steve Cohen, he has to step back and be like, "All right,
look. Here's the deal: the Mets are in a very good position, okay, and I know what you're saying, and I don't disagree with you, but look, the Mets don't need to win the division, okay? They already proved that. That gets proven every year. It's not the same.
But they can't.
I don't know. The 1950s.
You're right, but I don't know if they can come in 3rd in their division and still have a playoff spot, depending on the other divisions. So they got to be at least top 2. I don't know if they're.
I think they can, but no, I don't. I disagree, but But they weren't top 2 this year, were they? Or were they top 2? Oh yeah, they were top 2, right? Yeah, the Braves didn't go. But look, I think I think I think the Mets are in a very good position, okay? First of all, they still have money to spend. Second of all, they have a lot of depth in the organization. They have a good farm system and some very nice pieces that could be, you know, coveted by other teams, okay? Yankees aren't in that position, really. Their farm system isn't as deep. And the Mets also, you have to think about it, they have a lot of guys, young guys on the cusp that kind of play the same position, sort of. When you're talking about Acuna, when you're talking about Jet Williams, when you're talking about Ronnie Mauricio, when you're talking about all these guys coming back.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
I think, and Brett Beatty. So those guys are trade pieces that could bring in maybe a Garrett Crochet or a guy like that the Mets could certainly use to bolster their rotation. Now, they already made a couple of moves that people were like, but last year it couldn't be any more than the moves they made last year, and those guys ended up getting him to almost getting him to the world, got him one game, World Series.
I disagree in this though. Manaea and Severino were only in that can they stay healthy, right? Because Manaea was a top tier pitcher, as was Severino, and they stayed healthy and they played well.
But Manaea had a couple of bad years.
Yeah, but I'm saying like. I was yelling for the Yankees to get him because I wanted him because I think he was a top tier pitcher, even though he struggled the last couple of years. You know, with this group though, with Clay Holmes, how successful can he be? Is he going to be a fifth inning? If he's going to be a 5-inning pitcher, is he not going to be successful? Like, there's a lot of variables. If I was the Mets, I would re-sign Manaea without question. He's not going to cost you.
I think I would like the Mets to re-sign. I agree with that. I think the Mets, but do not underestimate. These guys know what they're doing. They've targeted guys. I'm dead serious. When you're talking about David Stearns and his crew, Eduardo Brizuela, and the whole baseball operations department there, these guys know what they're doing. They know what they knew what they were getting last year. Okay, everybody scoffed at it, but they did it. And I think Frankie Montas and Clay Holmes, like those guys are guys that are going to help. They're going to surprise some people, and I expect them to be good. Senga comes back, guys like Budo and guys like that I think are have a chance to be good. Peterson had a great year last year, so they're in good place. They got a couple of guys. They got a couple of moves to make, and they definitely have to bolster their bullpen. I think the lineup is going to be solid. I think they just got to make some key decisions, what they're going to do, who they're going to keep, who they're going to get rid of. Obviously, they can hold some guys back, but I think the Mets are in a really nice place now, and I do think they'll make a couple more splashes on the free agent market. And listen, they still are below where they were last year because they had all those guys still on the books. So even with Juan Soto's $51 million a year contract, they're still in a better position than they were. So they're in a great place. So I just, like I said, I think this is something that had to be done, and I think they're not done, and they are going to. I just, like I said, I have a lot of confidence in this baseball department, and they're gonna hit a couple more home runs before this winter's over, and there's going to be a lot of optimism going in. I agree with you. The Braves were kind of forgotten because they lost their MVP and their best player, Ronald Acuna Jr., Riley. There were so many injuries, but they lost some pitching. I love Alex Anthopoulos is a great GM. He's done a great job bringing guys in and supplementing all the guys that had kind of were a foundation in that organization when he came over years back. So look, they're a great organization, and the Phillies have done a great job too. So it's a great division. It's a tough division. But I think the Mets are trending upward no matter what way you slice it. And I think that, you have to stay healthy. You got to be able to, do these things. And that goes for any of the teams. And that can go for anybody. Anybody, you could be running and your Achilles tendon can go in, and that could be, your season. So
you're right. It's all about the health.
We'll see. But I'm thinking if the Mets could win with what they did last year, and now they're going to just keep adding Guys,
But
Juan Soto and some top tier free agents.
yeah, but baseball is a very humbling sport, as you well know, because I always go back to 2 years ago when the Orioles were a 100-win team and they had all these young guys and these guys were killing it. And this, 2024 came and they're like, this is the year for the Orioles. You never know. I mean, that's baseball, Susan, right?
Right.
So, but I mean, this is why we play the games, and this is why why this is fun, and this is why this time of year is full of optimism, especially if you are a top team, because you're going to get some good players. It's going to be fun to see once the dust settles where everybody's at and how everybody feels about where they landed. And I think that's going to be a great thing. Before we leave the show, we usually have the Miami Minute, but one thing has been irking me for 2 weeks, man, and that's this baseball golden at bat rule or thing they wanted to come up with. It drives me crazy. It drives me crazy.
Here's my
why not put why don't we put an above second base to make the guy run more to then go to third? Why not use green balls instead of it's so frustrating. Like, just let the game be what the game is. It's a beautiful game.
First, Lou.
Oh my God.
Lou, explain to the audience first of all. What you're talking about, because I don't know if everybody knows about this, but I know what you're talking about. But why don't you?
Yes. So Rob Manfred came up with this idea of you are allowed to get a hitter and bat him out of order during a game for one at bat. So whether it be in the ninth inning, bases loaded, and Juan Soto's batting ninth, now you can put him, to bat, in that cleanup spot, with the bases loaded. Or in the third inning, of a tight game that you feel this may be your best opportunity, you're going to bring up Aaron Judge to take that at bat in the third inning. I hate it. I hate it with a passion. It drives me crazy. I understand the pitching clock, and I understand that. I understand, the batter's not getting out of the batter's box, and I appreciate that, and I understand that. But these little knickknacks of the runner, the ghost runner, and it just drives me crazy. Like, just let the game be. It is one of the most beautiful games in the world when you just let it play out and let it be. Because guess what? We wouldn't have these other heroes of playoff and World Series lore if we always let the best guy come up to bat. Anyway, that's my rant.
Luke, I couldn't agree with you more. I hate it with a passion. Anything that messes up the game. Certain things, you want to speed things up. You think it's getting long and boring. The guys are taking over advantage of standing on the mound. They're peering in for the signs for 45 seconds every pitch. That adds an extra, 40 minutes to every game. 100%. I personally hate with a passion the ghost runner. I think it's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. The thing about baseball is a beautiful thing. If you know to keep a scorebook, and I was the official scorekeeper for the Mets for almost a decade. Okay. You balance it's like balancing your checkbook at the end of the game. You balance everything out to make sure, and it all adds up perfectly. It doesn't do that anymore, right? Because you got this guy made the last out in the ninth inning, and in the 10th inning, he's on second base and he scored the winning run. So how does that work? So I hate that stuff. I don't like the stuff that messes with the integrity of the game. Now, again, I've spoken to Major League Baseball officials on this. It's basically driven by the owners. The money is so crazy out there. They don't want these guys out there playing tired, exhausted in the bottom of the 25th inning with the game still going on. They're trying to get the game in and move on to the next game and keep their players healthy and all that stuff. I get it. Okay. Obviously that's why we're in the game. I mean, I love baseball, but I make a living in baseball. So I'm here, to put food on my table and keep the lights on in my house, pay my mortgage. But I think I don't like the messings of the game. So I agree with that 100%. The golden bat thing is something, apparently somebody told me the Savannah Bananas do it. And that's where they came up with this idea.
Leave it with the Savannah Bananas.
Just leave it. No, I agree 100%. That's the whole part of the game when Tom Lawless comes up to bat in the 87 World Series and hits a home run out of nowhere. Like, Like, that's what makes the game great, and that's what people remember. It's not always that, with the Yankees have, stuck Mickey Mantle up instead of, or whatever. I mean, I'm sorry, with the Pirates have stuck up Roberto Clemente instead of Bill Mazeroski, and he never, and then he never hits the walk-off grand slam. I mean, you just, you would change, the whole game would change. So I agree with you 100%. I hate that idea, but all 100%. But here's the thing. I personally believe, and I don't have any inside word on this, but just knowing things, I think they put it out there to hear what the reaction was going to be. The reaction was extremely negative against it, like what you're saying, what I'm saying. And right away, Rob Manfred came out and said, well, that's not happening anytime soon anyway. So I believe that they were that was like a little PR test stunt, and it failed, and that will go back into a hole, hopefully, for a long time. I never want to see that rule. I agree with you 100%. But that's the free agency. I do want to have a Miami Minute, and look, I drove to Syracuse.
Yes, go number one. All right.
They blew a 21-point lead. The Hurricanes. Huh?
I said, yes, he's going to go number one. All right. We know.
I didn't hear you. Well, hopefully. Okay. But this isn't the Cam Ward minute. This is the Miami minute right now. Look they blew a 21-point lead. That wasn't Cam Ward's fault. Our defense was very poor, very disappointed the way our defense played, and very disappointed with our stretch drive. We had issues that weren't fixed, and they didn't get the job done, and that was disappointing. Okay. They just had to win 2 out of 3 games against teams they were favored against, and they would have controlled their destiny and not had any issues whatsoever. Okay, getting into the playoff. The fact that they put a 3-loss Alabama team over Miami initially in the first, the second to last playoff bracket was a joke. Okay,
agreed.
To me, the SEC sits on a throne that it doesn't deserve. And let me just say something. I'm going to say this about the ACC. Okay, I watch the ACC on a regular basis. Okay, the ACC does not have Georgia and Alabama in football, or LSU, and depending on the year, they don't have those types of marquee programs. Clemson's the closest. Clemson had a good few year run there. A bunch of years where they've been very good. Okay, but the one thing I'm going to say is that I watch baseball, I watch football, I watch basketball in the ACC. I will pick 3 random teams: NC State, Wake Forest, Georgia Tech. Okay, 3 teams that are very rarely at the top of the divisions or whatever. You go into into those places, any game, any sport. Yes, you might get an upset. You might get a 38-7 win, but most of the time they are going to fight you. Virginia. I mean, I can go on and on naming teams. Yep. These are good teams, good programs, great athletic departments. They're good in every sport every year. And you don't you go in there, you're going to go be in a fight. Okay. The SEC has the top teams. The bottom teams are poor. They're not good. They don't compete like those teams in the ACC. But these committees, and again, I see the guy from Michigan as the committee leader. I don't know who he is. Don't really care who he is. But look, this guys like whoever's on that committee, they're taking this weight wrong, and they are not giving the credit to the ACC. Alabama lost 3 games. Okay, they lost to Vanderbilt, who stinks. They lost to they beat it a Division II school in the second to last game. I mean, Miami could have scheduled that. If I'm Miami or any of the ACC schools, I will schedule all the Big Ten, because the Big Ten's another one. There's a few good teams at the top, and then the rest stinks. But I would schedule a couple of those big teams, and then forget, and then play poor opponents the rest of the season, and play your schedule, and you'll get it. All you got to do is compete with those teams, and you'll be fine. So this has gone over a Miami minute, but Miami didn't get the respect they deserved. They lost 2 games by combined 9 points against very good football teams in Syracuse and Georgia Tech. They dug their own grave. I know that, but they deserve better than falling behind Alabama and 3-loss SEC teams like South Carolina. Get out of here. Anyway, listen, I want to just thank everybody for tuning in today. I have my shirt on here. Hall of Fame vodka.
Yes.
Guys, if you're looking for something for a Christmas gift, last minute, our friends at Hall of Fame Vodka, check them out. Look at this bottle. For your baseball fans in your life, go see them. Hall of Fame Vodka, HallOfFameVodka.com. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Lou, thanks. We'll see you guys next week.
Yes, sir.